Hey again, everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the next installment in our weekly news recap series, where we take a look at just either announcements, news teases, or releases for the week. And this week, it was kind of surprising. I thought it started up, well, it didn't start off slow, actually, because John Wick dropped, so we're going to get into that. But I thought it was pretty manageable, and then by the end of the week, actually, there were a ton of things worth discussing, so this might be a slightly longer video, so I apologize for that in advance, but there's a lot to get through. And I did even leave something off, like Easy and Simple dropped the new Delta Force operator. That looks great, and I am tempted to get, but just not enough time, I think, to discuss. So, again, right, just a lot to get into. So let's start, and we'll start with news, right? And there's really one news story this week, and that's Threezero. And with the ramp up to Halloween, they released a teaser for Vecna from Stranger Things Season 4. So I always assume they might try to tackle it, but Threezero's been really quiet with the line, right? We've seen some of the teasers of the kids. They dropped the entire line of the kids at this point from Season 1. And the question to me was always, are they going to continue on with the line? And I had even commented on some of their posts on social media, on Facebook, and they did provide some responses that seemed to indicate that they were continuing on with it. So this tease for Vecna definitely gives you the indication that they are in this for the long run. So as far as the character, obviously a pivotal character if you follow Stranger Things, so I'd definitely be tempted in getting it. And I have their Demogorgon figure in hand, which, with the exception of the stand, the figure itself is actually pretty nice. So I'd be tempted to get it. It is a little on the gruesome side. My collection doesn't steer that much into horror elements, and Stranger Things kind of got me into that. So I would be tempted to pick it up, but more importantly, I hope this is an indication that characters like Hopper or some of the other characters that showed up in Season 2, 3, and 4 are on the drawing board and potentially coming out. So definitely a highlight and a great news story. But now, let's get into the meat and the main course of the discussion, which is announcements. So we'll start with the first one, which was John Wick and Caine. So first of all, super exciting that they finally got announced, and that they weren't relegated to this vault of figures that get teased but never get shown. So kudos to Hot Toys for actually coming through with them. And what they're delivering here, let's start with John Wick. The figure looks incredible. Tell me that sculpt isn't the best Keanu Reeves sculpt we've gotten to date, right? I think when you look at the way it looks, it continues this trend that Hot Toys has recently, right? Or actually, I won't even say recently, just over the last, say, 6 months, where every new tease and every new release is kind of a much more hyper-realistic sculpt. So they've definitely upped their game, and this piece is no exception. Right, I love the fact that you get two different hairstyles. The one with the hair kind of wet and all messed up definitely gives you a more dynamic feel. And then you have the more traditional longer hair, right? Both look great and are going to fit in nicely on the sculpt. And then you look at the loadout for the pieces that are coming in. The weapons, the handguns, right? All the different accessories. It's a pretty nicely loaded figure. I don't think it's as loaded as the John Wick 2 version, right, that had a lot more, but it's pretty well thought out. And the special edition, I think there's no debate that the special edition is the way to go here, right? It comes with the additional rifle for no added cost. I don't see why you would pass on that. So I already ordered it. I need a John Wick, and I passed on John Wick 2. Am I happy I did that? I might try to go back and get that at some point, but right now I'm happy with this version of John Wick. And again, from a sculpt perspective, one of the best sculpts that continues this trend from Hot Toys. The tailoring on the suit and the material choice, that looks pretty phenomenal too, right? That looks like something that's going to stand out and fits well on the figure. So combine that with everything else, that's pretty incredible. And Hot Toys, when we come to attention to detail, if you look at his hand, right, where he cut his finger, the spare hands all have the missing finger. So that's great. And that's something, if you saw any of my present toys, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly figure reviews, that's something that was missing from some of their figures, right? That they just gave you standard hands, which I get, right? Maybe who's going to pay attention to that? But the fact that Hot Toys paid attention to that and is providing a figure in line with that is pretty impressive. So day one pre-order, already ordered, definitely coming home. I don't know that they're going to do anything else, and I don't know that I necessarily need anything else from the line. Honestly, with the release of Caine, the only thing that I'd be looking for, and I'm surprised they didn't do, would have been maybe a Halle Berry from the third movie with the dogs. I think that would have been on par, but for whatever reason they ended up not doing that. Now Caine also dropped, and he's a simpler figure, right? And in the movie, he's a presence, but he doesn't really use a lot of different items. He uses his handgun, he uses a sword. There's a lot that he's using there. So you're getting exactly that and exactly what's useful. Again, tailoring, much more simple than the John Wick with the turtleneck and the black suit. And the key thing with him is the sculpt. The sculpt, again, I feel like Hot Toys just knocked it out of the park here. And it looks like he did in the movie. I don't know if the glasses are removable. I would imagine they are, right? I can't picture that Hot Toys would have them molded in place. They look like they're too well detailed to be a molded piece. So I think they'll be removable, and just the appearance, the likeness to the character is on point. So really a stunning 2-pack that's going to go together. So another one that I ordered, and as far as cost, the John Wick, I think was $270. Hold on, let me check. I have the page open. Yeah, John Wick is $270 for both, right? And Caine is $260. So John Wick coming with the additional hairpiece, right, with all the accessories that he does, all the weapons. Oh, and actually, the final shot for John Wick shows that he does come with a bow and arrow as well, which wasn't showcased in any of the promo pics, but it's an additional piece of weaponry. Not that I would use it. When I think John Wick, I think the weapons, the guns, the rifles. But another piece that you're gonna get, and it's nice to have. So he's at $270. Caine is at $260. Listen, would I like the figures to be cheaper? Absolutely, but I think they're reasonable costs for what you're getting here. And for new Caine, definitely for a new character, and John Wick being a new sculpt and all, I think it works out pretty well. And there was no way I was passing on both of those. So those two look fantastic. Glad that John Wick finally got some love from Hot Toys. I don't think there's any potential future for the line. I think this is kind of a one-off, so have to get those. Next piece that was teased last week and finally dropped, Blade from Blade Trinity by SooSoo Toys. SooSoo, I love SooSoo, right? Let's start with that. I think from third-party companies, they're one of the best in the market right now. And what kind of gave me a little trepidation with them was they went radio silent with the lead up to Homelander. They got quiet. They were supposed to release a bunch of figures around December. They had this whole event where they showcased all these figures that were going to be revealed. Major delays. Some of those still aren't revealed. I think they were going to do Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen. Still nothing on that one. And instead we're getting, we got Deathstroke, which looks great. And we got this Blade figure. We got Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. So they're kind of starting to release new teases. But there was a concern with me that maybe they were in trouble. I don't know if that's still the case, but it looks like things are finally opening up for them and they are releasing figures. I think there's rumor that some of the Watchmen figures may be dropping, and even some of the Teen Titans figures that they had are going to be dropping in the next week or so. So they're showing signs of life. And when you look at this Blade, I've said it before, SooSoo, I think, is the third-party company that is closest to getting licensed. The quality of their figures, well, it used to be really top-notch, right? It kind of went up to this really high level, and then it dropped a little bit, and I'm curious to see if they pick it back up. Because, again, that Rogue figure that I got, there were a bunch of quality control issues with that. So hopefully they've remedied it at this point. But one of the things that I noticed, too, with this Blade Trinity figure, and I can accept that I was wrong. Because last week I mentioned SooSoo seems to be focusing on figures that are simpler in nature, right? Like that Batman and Robin, Mr. Freeze. But when you look at this Blade, this is a more involved figure, right? Sure, he's just got a trench coat, he's got an undershirt, but even the vest and all the accessories, the holsters and all the weapons, there's definitely a little bit more work that's going into this. I think this figure looks phenomenal. It looks like Wesley Snipes, first of all. You can argue that why did they go Blade Trinity instead of Blade 1 or Blade 2? who knows, right? But Blade Trinity, at least, forgetting the quality of the movie, but at least the look of Blade was pretty cool, right? I like the red undershirt with the vest and the red lining of the jacket, which we saw in Blade 2, but the addition of the added red, and you see it with the Miles Morales, red and black just pops. So having that look, pretty nice. The vest looks pretty great as well, with the glyph in the chest, with the holsters and everything. The jacket is real leather. So this also matches up with the Present Toys version, right? And the Present Toys one is also from Blade 2. So that's another real leather piece. So I like that third party is starting to get into that. And it begs the question, why doesn't Hot Toys, right? Why doesn't every company do leather where it's required? So if third party can do it, I don't think Hot Toys, it's out of the realm of possibility for Hot Toys to do it as well. So jacket looks great. You're getting two different sculpts. And again, both look like Wesley Snipes. I don't think there's any denial on that. And I love that you're getting this aggressive sculpt that has the actual fangs out and the open mouth kind of scream, because it's going to make for a great display, right? Then you look at all the accessories, all the weapons. This is a must get. And I know I keep saying I'm going to try to slow down on the third party. But this is what I say when I say we're living in a golden age of figures. You get the great John Wick Hot Toys figures. You get this from SooSoo. And I know some people might pass on it because of the property, but I love that Blade, that version of Blade, Wesley Snipes, issues notwithstanding, with Wesley's personality on set and the quality of the movie. So this is one that I'm very much not going to pass on. I can't pass on it, right? It looks that good. And it's another Blade that fits in well with the Marvel collection. So another great job by SooSoo. Next one came out of nowhere, actually. I think Exo6 had teased it in a newsletter last week, but it was a bit of a surprise, and they finally announced Captain Pike from Strange New Worlds. Exo6 and I love Exo6 because they're doing figures from a property I like, but there's no denying that the quality is more on par with Threezero or some third-party companies, as opposed to your higher-end like Dan Toys, Hot Toys figures, right? And I've accepted that. I think that's fine. This, to me, looking at this Captain Pike figure, has to be one of the best sculpts they've done. It just looks like him, right? And I think that's how the Strange New World line is going to progress. It looks like every figure they had on the prototype stage had gone through some improvements and is now really a top-notch sculpt. So part of that also, interestingly enough, it looks like the drop date for this, meaning the release date, is Q2 2024. So it's about a 6-month range. That is on the longer end of release time between pre-order and release from Exo6. Case in point, the Balana Tours that I already reviewed, that was almost an immediate purchase. I think from pre-order to release, it was a few weeks. And they've been kind of accelerating that, right? Tom Parrish was quick, Harry Kim was quick. There are rumors that even the data that just came out on pre-order maybe a month or two ago is also going to release before Christmas. So there's a speed at which they're producing figures, but there's an exception, right? Krug, it looks like they outsourced, which at the price point, almost $300, it almost seems like they're doing that one with a different manufacturing plant. And that one, maybe they're trying to get really to be a top-notch, high-quality figure, which for the price point makes sense. And this one, the CEO of Exo6 also mentioned this is not tied into the production on any of the other figures. So I feel like this also might have gotten outsourced, which might explain the quality on the paint. Now, everything is just judged on the promo pics. What I've seen from Exo6 in the past, the promo pics tend to not be as good as the final product. Sometimes it's a marginal improvement, sometimes it's a more dramatic improvement. If the release looks as good as this does, I think we're in for a treat. So from a sculpt perspective, great. From a uniform perspective, it's a really simple figure, right? He's got a gold shirt with black pants, but the detail work on the shirt with the shoulders and down the arms, all the way down to the sleeves, there's a lot of great detail work that really also makes it pop, right? And then the boots are actually some of the more complex boots, not as maybe intricate as the ones from Discovery, but there's some nice details, including the Starfleet Delta, maybe an overuse of deltas on everything. but looks pretty good. And then from an accessory perspective, you're getting a lot of the weapons that we got with the Discovery figures, which makes sense given the time frame, and I think they work well. It's a little more costly than the typical figures at $225. I think you're paying for that added sculpt work because the accessories are things they've already done, but I think the sculpts are really standing out. So hopefully this is something where Exo-6 delivers, because I have high hopes for this line, especially given what they've shown. And again, this one came out of nowhere, a little more expensive, and there's more time frame between pre-order and actual release. So I'm thinking that's hopefully going to lead to a higher quality product. And hopefully they can throw in extra pegs. I don't get why Exo-6 doesn't do that. It bothers me to no end, especially with how frail those are at times. Now, next figure, going back into third party, and these are, I guess these are kind of in order of my preference for the week. This one came out of nowhere, and I was surprised. Cyclops, a comic book version of Cyclops from Present Toys. Now, SooSoo had done 2 comic versions, right? They did a Gambit and they did the Rogue. That was very limited. I think it was 300 pieces or something, or that's what they claim. So, very limited figure. SooSoo did that. And I thought SooSoo might be primed to continue on with the line. And I was hoping to get one of these figures. This looks very much like that classic Jim Lee. Did I get that right? I think so. But that poster, right, with the blue uniform, with the yellow. This figure looks great. Now, I was cautioned by a friend. This is just based on the pictures. Wait until the release, because it's possible that the release is going to be much more subpar. So I've already had the experience with Present Toys with the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly figures, and I think from promo to release, there was definitely some softening of the details, but I think we ended up getting a pretty good package. So if they can continue that, I think this Present Toys, what you're seeing there is going to be very close to the final product. And what we're seeing here is pretty impressive, right? Starting with the sculpts, you're getting different visor accessories, right, to show kind of the blast effects. That's pretty impressive. I don't know if there's a light up feature. Would make sense, but I don't know if Present Toys is doing that, right? So that's a question mark. Now, you also have the suit itself, right, and the make of the suit. First of all, it looks good. Then there's texture on it. There's a lot of pattern work. So I don't know that it's a straight rip from the comic pages. Present Toys kind of took some incentive into doing their own thing, and it looks really good, right? With the belt and all the straps as well. So I think that's pretty tempting. Now, the other thing, if you pre-order, you get a bonus leather bomber jacket, which also goes with the figure. I don't know that it's essential, and they are saying it's a leather-like material, so probably pleather, which is susceptible to deterioration, so that's not great. But really great looking piece. Right now, from a package, you're getting 2 versions. You're getting a deluxe and you're getting a standard, right? The deluxe includes a diorama base, so you know I'm a sucker for diorama pieces. Is it necessary? I don't know that it is with this figure, but it's a nice addition. And the only concern here is SooSoo going to do their own, right? Or is SooSoo kind of abandoning that line and Present Toys is saying, I'm going to jump in and finish it? So having the other Rogue, I'd be tempted to wait for SooSoo, but at the same time, this looks pretty phenomenal. So it's a very tempting piece. Just brings into mind that whole, there's a lot being released right now, right? I have 4 orders. The first 4 figures that we talked about, John Wick, Caine, Blade, and Captain Pike, they're already ordered. So am I going to add this figure to it, right? Because again, that list is continuing to grow and we're still getting figures dropped. So I don't know yet. This one is definitely a question mark, but I think it was a surprising announcement by Present Toys and one that looks really good. Next figure, and this one also came out of nowhere, from a company called Kaustic, and I've seen them around, right? I don't personally own any of their product, so if you do, I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are in terms of quality. Is it a good figure? Are you happy with them? Are you not happy with them? Is it worth picking up or worth skipping? Because they came out of nowhere with Colonel James Braddock, right? The Chuck Norris character from the Missing in Action series. Again, totally unexpected. I saw the pictures and I had to do a double take. I didn't know anybody was going to tackle this. Look, Missing in Action, it's one of those remnant of the 80s movies, right? And as much as I love Chuck Norris, his movies were never, or at least if I go back and think about it when I was a kid, right? He was definitely one of those action icons, right, that we would talk about with Stallone, Arnold, JCVD, Seagal, and him, right? But in terms of the movies, right, it was really Arnold and Sly were the guys that were running things, and the other ones, JCVD, Seagal, Chuck Norris, their movies were entertaining, but they weren't to the same kind of level in terms of box office success, right? So this was very much a product of its time, with him going in to rescue POWs from Vietnam. So very similar actually to Rambo 2, at least in basic storyline, right? Execution was completely different, and this one actually came out, Missing in Action came out I think a year before Rambo 2. So we were getting similar stories. It's a good entertaining movie, right? I wouldn't say it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, but it's entertaining, and Chuck Norris is great. So to get a Chuck Norris figure, or the possibility of a Chuck Norris figure, first of all, I don't know that anybody's done one, right? I thought at some point a third party might do one from his appearance in The Expendables 2, but that never panned out. So this looks like, for that 80s shelf where I have all the Sly figures, all the Arnold figures, I think he fit in remarkably well. And the piece that you're getting here, first of all, it's interesting. The sculpt in some shots looks remarkably lifelike and remarkably like him at the time. There are other shots where he doesn't look as good, but these are all taken, and there was video at the show, right? And the same thing, he looks good in some shots, so I don't know how he's going to turn out, but it's really tempting. And then as far as accessories, he actually comes with a lot of weapons, right? So the way they had him posed in some of these pictures with just an M16 looks great as well, and the uniform that he's got on. So another really tempting figure. And this one, the Cyclops, while the Cyclops is tempting because it's third party, I don't know about it. This one, if it goes out for release, unless one of you tells me Kaustic is terrible and not to get it, this is probably another one that's going to get ordered. Now, again, and I told you we had a lot to discuss, right? Next one coming in from Mondo is the MacReady from the Thing, and the MacReady is the Kurt Russell character, right? Who standout character, one of his best roles. I think Kurt Russell's most memorable roles. Even though I don't think the movie did as well box office wise when it came out, but an incredible movie, incredible science fiction movie, just an incredible story, right? And the ending of the movie, if you haven't watched it, right, leaving MacReady and Childs sitting in the snow, not knowing if one of them is the Thing. It was such a, I don't want to say it was a morbid ending, right? But it was definitely, it left you a little disconcerted. So phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It is a little on the gruesome side, so just be prepared for that. It is an R-rated movie. So Mondo, they've done the X-Men animated series, right? They've done the Masters of the Universe series, the Batman animated series. They're doing good products in their own little niche market, right? And I was tempted to get the Batman figures, but when you look at, again, limiting your collection, even though maybe I'm not doing a great job about that, but those just didn't fit in at the time. And to try to go back and get them, even though it's possible, it just wasn't worth it, and it's not really fitting in with how I see my collection growing at this point. So I passed on those, but I think they're doing a great job with extending those lines and actually releasing great product. Now, this is surprising because it's stepping away from that animated look with all the exposed joints to something a little more realistic. Now, the sculpt looks decent. I'm not going to say it's the best. I wouldn't say it's on Hot Toys quality, in our quality, right? Yeah, let's throw them in there. They do great sculpt work as well, or Damn Toys, but it's pretty decent. It looks like Kurt Russell. And I think you get two versions, right? You get one that's got a little more ice on it. So I'm pretty impressed with that. Accessories look great with the flamethrower and the flame effect. I just don't know how this is going to turn out in the long run. They've got great experience with 6 scale with the animated look, but I don't know if that's going to translate to a live action figure. I hope it does, because this is really tempting. This one is definitely more on the I'm probably going to pass on it. I'd love a Kurt Russell figure. I don't know if this is it, right? With Mondo, I'll be a little hesitant. Unfortunately, there are 2 versions of it, right? You get the deluxe, which is timed, and I think next Friday, the 10th, is going to be the last day you can possibly get it, right? And then you can get the standard. So the timed exclusive includes the dog that the Thing is kind of transforming into, and the second one is the head of one of the scientists with almost like crab legs coming out. Really gruesome, really in line, really goes with the Thing movie, but I don't know that I would need those, right? So I can wait a little bit and just get the MacReady. But if you're interested in those, next Friday is the last opportunity you have to pick that up, at least in direct sales. So tempted, I just don't know if I can invest in it at this point, right? And the cost is $265, so not cheap, and versus $235. So $265, again, it's getting up there. I don't know if I can justify the price. Now, next figure is William Munny from Unforgiven. And I was really tempted when Sideshow announced this, because Unforgiven is another one of, it's the last great Clint Eastwood Western, I would say, with an amazing story, great cast. He's a great character, right? But someone mentioned this to me when looking at the Sideshow sculpts, and they're like 80% real and 20% animated. So that 20% is, you're seeing here. I can see some likeness to Clint Eastwood, but it's almost like a stylized version of it. He almost looks like he would fit in well with the Gangster's Kingdom line. Not that level of, stylization, but there's a little noticeable one there. So, pretty decent looking figure. I think light on the accessories, right? Not sure what else he would come with, but from a package overall, it's decent. And I think the highlight here, the sculpt, I think that's going to be an acquired taste, and it's the clothing set. He looks good. I think the fit, the cut, the material looks awesome. What I don't like is the cost. $290. $290 is a Hot Toys figure, right? $290 is one of these other high-end company figures, and I don't know that Sideshow is there, right? I have a lot of their older figures, and they were decent, but I don't know that I'd pay $300 for that, right? So, I think as excited as I was with everything else coming out, that's unfortunately going to be a pass. If you do get it, I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like in hand. Maybe I'll reconsider once it releases, but for right now, I think I'm going to have to say no to that one. And then the last bit of news from a release perspective, we got the Grand Inquisitor from the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I have that on order. It's actually my first Star Wars figure that I'm going to be picking up in a while. So hopefully I'm looking forward to that one getting here. It looks great. I do think maybe there's a little softening on the sculpt, but he makes an impression, right? The Grand Inquisitor. And granted, we didn't see him do a lot of things in the show, right? He wasn't a dynamic character. He wasn't engaged in lightsaber battles, but you have that option of displaying him in that way. I think he turned out great. I'm really excited to get him in hand, and I think he's going to look great with Reva, with Obi-Wan, with Vader. So definitely, for me, a great way to restart that Star Wars collection. And I think, again, he just turned out really, really impressive. I don't know that he fits in line with some of the other sculpts we've seen lately. I'll wait to see it in hand with that hyper realism. Again, it's a made-up character with a lot of makeup on, so maybe that comparison doesn't merit. But again, overall, really, really solid piece. So that was it for the week. A lot of announcements, and a lot of great announcements and variety from different characters and different licenses. Like, it was nice to get some stuff from Marvel. But it was also nice to get stuff from movies like John Wick, like The Thing, like Missing in Action. That one came out of nowhere. So great to see kind of 6 scale broadening to some of these other properties. So that was it. That was a quick look at some of the topics this week. Again, Easy and Simple also had a Delta Force operator that went up. He looks great, especially the rifle setup. I just didn't have time to incorporate it into this discussion. Maybe I'll save him for next week, depending on what drops. But another really heavily loaded week for 6 scale collecting. So let me know your thoughts on this. As always, just thanks for watching and sharing a little bit of your time with me. And if you are enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, dropping a comment. I try to answer those as much as possible. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribing. So thanks again, and we'll touch base on the next video.